Hello everyone and welcome back to JeremyTiki Plays Sonic 2. So last episode we discussed what different types of mechanics were being taught in the different stages, and will continue to do so in this stage. So this stage introduces a really interesting mechanic, which is the oil sliding mechanic. It isn't used a whole lot, but it is introduced in this stage, so it's worth noting. And this little area here is the perfect setup for the stage. Makes you get past the little enemy first, so you're not really thinking about it, and then it immediately introduces the new mechanic. You can tell immediately by looking, because we have this railing here, that this area here is a little bit different than the rest. And by looking at the floor, you can see the little bubbles of oil. So immediately it's cluing you in, something's different about this area, and as soon as you walk through it, you can see the difference immediately. And one of the first things you can see is Sonic won't spin through it. You can't even crouch. He's constantly walking. So it immediately introduces you to the oil spinning mechanic and to this fan mechanic. But it does so in a way that even if you're just walking across the fan, you'll just get bumped to the other side, no problem. And with the oil mechanic, it's the same thing. There's no pressure on that mechanic. Same thing here. The shooting mechanic, no real pressure on it. There's nothing you're going to win or lose by playing with it for a few minutes and getting used to the mechanic. So, like I said, this is the kind of mechanics that it's introducing in this stage, and it does so in a perfect, immediate, it kind of gives you like a little sandboxy way to play with it. And that isn't like the best way to introduce the mechanic, because it's not showing what you can do with it in a really wide spectrum. Some of that happens later on in the stage, like with the pusher, like for those poppers, for example, that act kind of as like a mini elevator. But some of the other stuff doesn't really get a good usage example in the stage. And, excuse me, that could have just been, development time needed to be cut, so they didn't really have enough time. Oh my god, excuse me. They didn't really have enough time to play with something like that. Or it could just be the devs couldn't figure out a good way to do it. I would lean more towards the first one, angling for development time and just not being able to figure out a really clever way. Like the other ways that this game teaches you to play the game is really, I feel, really, really clever. It's a really smart, a really smart way of teaching you how to play the game. Alright, so here's another new mechanic that they kind of push in, and that's these, oh, maybe it's not this game. Maybe it's Sonic 3 that I was thinking of. Oh, whoops. There's a mechanic, I guess it's in Sonic 3, where you can aim the cannons. Maybe I'm mistaken there, too. I've been playing Generations on the side as well, so I've kind of gotten messed up. So here's an example of where that first little bit shows, because now you can kind of see where they're introducing the oil mechanic and teaching you some other neat stuff about it. Like, whenever there's a slope, you don't run up it anymore, you just slide down it. And if you want to get this little ring box up here, you have to figure that out early on, or else it just keeps pushing you down. So like I said, even though I criticized it earlier, saying, that little sandboxy area wasn't the best way to do it, there are still some other minor examples of where, in this game, where they do teach you how the mechanics work. They just don't do it with as much finesse as the other mechanics that were introduced in the game. At least I don't feel they do it with as much finesse as they did with the other mechanics. But again, that's just my personal opinion. I could be completely wrong. Oh, whoops. There we go. But that's the main mechanics that's teaching in this episode. Or not this episode, this stage, I guess is the correct term for the video game. Oh, so here's another neat little mechanic it teaches is gaining momentum with the fans. Again, it's a mechanic that isn't really used later on in the series, but just a nice little kind of twist that it adds in there too. Kind of like, and some of this stuff you can kind of see it gets used more heavily later on in Sonic games. For example, the oil slides, they get used to great extent in Sonic 3 and Sonic 3 and Knuckles, where they're used as like water slides instead of oil slides. So it's kind of introducing the mechanic early on. In a lot of ways, Sonic 2 was like a really obvious precursor to Sonic 1. Sonic 2 was a precursor to Sonic 1. Sonic 2 was an obvious precursor to Sonic 3 and Knuckles, but you can really see a lot of how some of the mechanics got fleshed out a lot better in Sonic 3. Because there's some things like this that never even came back and were mentioned again. But other mechanics like the sinking in the oil and the oil slides came back in other really more refined ways in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, which is why I'm going to be playing these two games back to back. So once I finish up Sonic 2, I'll move directly on to Sonic 3. But you can see a lot of mechanics really nicely refined. This mechanic specifically as well, I'm fairly certain it's Sonic 3 and Knuckles, gets changed into a much more interactive, because right now it's just, it's not even really a mechanic, it's just a thing that happens. But in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, it gets changed into its own little mini-game almost. And the same goes with the fan. And in that little area there, you can use the... You can use the fan to gain a little bit of momentum before you take off. I guess you can't get up this part, I thought you could. But this is another nice thing that if you learned the momentum mechanic well enough in... What stage was it? Chemical Plant, you can do this, you can get up that slide pretty easily. As long as you understood the momentum mechanic from the previous stage. The previous stages. And you can collect like a little prize there. Oops. There we go. And as long as you've understood the mechanics of the game this far, you can get out of the oil there easily. Because that's another great example of the how it teaches you the mechanics in this stage. Because if you fall here, without that fan, oh, I guess there is another way to get up. I was going to say, it's really difficult to get back up. But with the fan, it makes it really easy. It pushes you right up out of the way. So it's just kind of another example of how the game tests you as you go through, making sure you really have understood the mechanics of the game thus far. And not every game does that either. Some games I've played, I've gone in the entire game without even realizing a mechanic was built into it. And then after the game, I realized, like, oh, this would have been super helpful if I would have realized it a long time ago. Oh my, now I'm going in circles. Oh, right, because I fell. I was going to say, usually, I don't remember the stage being that difficult, but I guess I fell right there. Alright, so let's kind of bunker down and get to the end of the stage. So I got some other recording I gotta do today. Shoot. Yeah, see. If you understand the momentum mechanics there, you can get up and down that section easily. But like I said, I don't really want to spend a lot of extra time doing it. I think I've talked about the mechanics in the stage nicely. And here again, we have another just perfect example of if you understand the bouncing mechanic well enough, this section here shouldn't be hard at all. Oh, follows you. I wasn't... Hey! Oh no. Well, that's not good. Obviously, Tails hasn't followed along the entire time because he doesn't seem to get the mechanics at all. Okay, so the tail doesn't hurt you for that. Like I said, it's been a really long time since I've played this game. So if I don't remember the mechanics... Oh, shit. If I don't remember the hitboxes of some enemies, like, perfect, don't hold it against me. It's been a very long time since I've played this game. Alright. I got about... Oh my god, how far back did it set me? Oh man, it set me back pretty far. I thought there was a save point closer than that, but I must have been mistaken. That's surprising. Usually there's a save point right before the Robotnik fight. Unless maybe I just missed it. That doesn't seem right. Usually I make sure to hit all the save points I can. Yeah, here we go. So, if you understand the momentum mechanics well enough, you can get an extra little... Oh, there we go. So that's what it was. Like I said, as long as you understand the mechanics well enough, the game rewards you with shields and checkpoints, and not making you waste your time. But if you're a total nub like me, you have to waste your time. Alright. So now we're a little bit more set for this stage. Shouldn't have too much problem. We'll go a little bit over. Man, that fires quick. Guess it only fires 3 shots too. Alright. So this is why Tails is nice to have around. Well, I guess maybe not. This little dumb shit just got himself killed. It's amazing how he dies and comes right back to life immediately. But I want to do that shit and the game won't let me. Whoops. Come on, shoot. Yep. Missed again. Aha. Whoa! I don't remember that. That's neat. That's a neat attack. Cool. Anyways. Alright, well I think that's where we're going to end it for this episode, guys. If you like this episode, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next episode.